Hi, my name's Andy and welcome to The Wake Up. You might have noticed I'm in a slightly different place. So I moved. I didn't just move studio, I moved countries. I moved from America back to Europe and this is my temporary studio. So welcome. Today I'm going to be answering some questions about breathing. It's one of our most requested topics. So our first question is from Susan in upstate New York. So she says, on the topic of breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, my yoga practice has taught me to breathe in and out through my nose with a slight constriction at the back of the throat to lengthen the breath, what's called Ujjayi Pranayama. I find myself doing the same in meditation. Should I change it? Is there a wrong way to breathe while meditating? So, look, there are different ways to approach the breath. And in many ways, this question sort of sums it up. And I think a lot of people have this same sort of question. Do I need to do something with the breath? There are two different schools of thought here. We can either lead the meditation with our body, and by that I also include the breath. So we can actually do something specific with the breath with the intention of it changing our mind in some way. Or we can lead the meditation with our mind, not necessarily doing anything with the body, not necessarily doing anything with our breath, but instead approaching the mind in a particular way, so that as a consequence, the breath then begins to slow down, the body begins to relax, and you can approach it in either way, and there are lots of different schools of thought. I can only really speak from the way in which I was trained, and I was trained by the mind leading the meditation. And the thinking was that in life we are so sort of intent on trying to control every moment of our existence that actually anything we can do that allows us to sort of let go of that idea is a really helpful thing. And it's interesting, even within meditation, we might try and control the breath. So by approaching it from the mind, we're essentially saying, okay, the body knows how to breathe. The point is not to breathe in a specific way, it's to notice the breathing and to have that breath as our object of meditation. And of course, we're going to get distracted and then we come back to it. It doesn't really matter within the context of meditation as I was taught it and as I teach it. It doesn't really matter too much what the breath is doing. Ultimately, the more at ease we become with watching the mind, the more at ease we become with the idea that sometimes the mind will wander off and we have to bring it back again. Ultimately, the more the breath begins to slow down. It naturally gets longer, it gets deeper. And as a consequence, our body feels perhaps a little lighter, a little more grounded. So really important in this context, in this type of meditation, that we're not trying to do anything to the breath. We're simply watching the breath, noticing the breath, and using it as our object to come back to whenever we realize we've become distracted. So our next question comes from Anastasia in Athens, in Greece. Hi, Anastasia. My experience with meditation has been very promising so far, but being a control freak, I have difficulty letting my breath return to its natural rhythm. I try to focus on the air going in and out of the nose or on the expansion of the chest, but it doesn't feel quite smooth or effortless. What are your tips? If you think about the journey of meditation, it's about letting go. It's about letting go of our tendency to try and control our thinking, our emotions, often our physical state as well. Maybe even beyond that, our relationships, our place in the world, how we kind of view the world around us. We just tend to try and control pretty much everything. And our breath simply reflects that. So it's quite normal to begin with that the breath may not necessarily flow very easily. Some days the breaths might be shorter, some days they might be longer. Slower, faster. It doesn't matter. We might think kind of, oh, well, we would like to witness long, slow, deep breaths, because somewhere in our mind, somewhere in our psyche, we kind of think, okay, that's going to make us feel more relaxed, or maybe somehow that's a sign that we're meditating in the right way. So look, I can only speak from the way that I was taught meditation. It doesn't matter what the breath is doing. Our job is to simply witness it. The breath is simply there as an object to focus on, to allow us to notice when we get distracted. Because if we didn't have that object, we probably wouldn't notice and we'd spend most of the meditation lost in thought. So honestly, Please don't worry too much about what the breath is doing. Over time, the breath will follow the mind. It will naturally become a little easier, a little softer, and hopefully you'll find that effortless feeling that you're looking for. Our final question is from Raul. I've recently been trying to get into a routine of meditating and exercise at 5 a.m. However, I've never been a morning person. And when I take deep breaths during meditation, I tend to yawn quite a lot. Is that normal? What can I do to stop it and from disrupting my breathing? So I don't know what order you do things in the morning, but it doesn't surprise me at all if you're getting up at 5 a.m. to begin your routine that you might yawn a little bit. And in some ways, it's so tempting to think that somehow that is a disruption or somehow it doesn't fit within the context of watching the breath. I would say I wouldn't look at it like that. I would actually kind of say within the context of watching the breath, sometimes there is yawning. So rather than kind of think that it's something that we shouldn't be doing or out of place and that meditation or breathing should always be the same way, should always feel the same way. Instead, kind of consider it as part of the broader picture. Our job is to show up and to watch the breath. And sometimes the body will do a bigger intake, a bigger inhalation of breath in order to get the oxygen it needs. All we need to do is be present for that, not to judge it, not to add any commentary in it, simply to watch it. The more we can do that, no matter how the breath appears, the more the mind will begin to settle as well. Thanks so much for watching today, and thanks for sending in all your questions. If you've got a question about anything in your practice, please feel free to send in to askandy@headspace.com, and I'll do my best to get to it in a future episode. And if you're looking to try any of the techniques that we've just talked about, feel free to check out the daily meditation. On the meditation tab right now, you can choose a time length, anything from 3 minutes to almost half an hour. Whatever you choose to do, I hope you have a great day today, and thanks for tuning in.